shadowed peaks of the Salt Lake Valley to the mist-covered banks of the Hudson Valley and all across the globe, the signal drifts through the night. This is Midnight Signals. Now, here are your hosts, Sergeant Shenanigator and Alien Mike.
Alien Mike, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Another day
Happy
in paradise.
Halloween.
What? Happy Halloween to you too. You
I know
excited?
we're not there yet, but when they see this tomorrow, we'll be there.
Yep. Yep. Little early recording action.
Yeah. See if we can screw this up as good as we do the podcast.
Well, we're already on a good roll.
We really are. So you ready for some ghost stories tonight, man?
Yes, I am. I definitely am. I hope
Well,
you are.
I've actually got a few ghost stories here that are mine. One that's got ties to Poughkeepsie, and then I've got like 4 stories from a couple of our followers.
Oh, nice. I know one of the stories we got from a follower. I didn't know about the other ones. They must have messaged you privately about it.
They did.
Okay, cool. I had no idea. I've got a couple of stories myself. This was actually really difficult for me because I kept checking our email, hoping to get more suggestions from people, and I never saw any.
Yeah,
So I
that's
was
okay.
yeah. So I was trying to figure out what to do. So I came up with a couple that. One I know you've heard, personal, and the other one that you haven't. So it's it'll be exciting.
Absolutely. So, um, little bit why we're doing the ghost stories tonight. We're both fans of the late great Mr. Art Bell. And Halloween, he would do Ghost to Ghost, four
Yep.
hours of just live ghost stories every Halloween, all from callers.
And
So, in honor of him,
yep,
we decided to do some ghost stories of our own.
yep. And I loved Ghost to Ghost. That was absolutely fantastic.
That was the best holiday gift. Was right there.
Yeah. And that's something that I've thought about quite a bit is I love how he, radio station and he'd say, "This is what we're doing," and people could just call in. I just love that whole concept.
Oh,
Because
I
then
did too.
you get stories
Unscreened.
from yep, from everywhere, on screen, unscripted, just bam, right in your face.
Ah, that's what made Art Bell the great.
Yep. R.I.P.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well,
So,
I'll go ahead and start this ghost story.
okay, which one are you going to start with today?
The first one, it's broken down into 2 ghost stories. Well, one ghost story and one curse.
Okay.
And this is the town of Bodie, California.
Okay.
All right, Bodie, California. In 1859, 4 men discovered gold on the eastern side of the Sierra foothills. They agreed to keep the place a secret until the following spring, for other gold seekers were looking to steal gold at the time up there in those hills.
Mhm.
So the reason I picked this story was one man was named. His name was W.S. Bodie, and it's given 3 names. One of them they think he may have been William, but there were 2 other names I don't know. So he just went by W.S. Bodie, and he was a native of Poughkeepsie, New York.
Wait, native of Poughkeepsie,
Yep.
but he was working in California during the gold rush.
He was a shopkeeper out here, and he'd always been. He always had that little entrepreneur spirit, but he wanted more. And when the gold rush started, he decided to pack up and head to California, see if he could claim a few riches here and there.
Very cool. Let me interrupt you for 1 second since I have a tendency to write everything down. Um, his name was W.S. Bodie.
Yes.
So let me W.S. How do you spell his last name? B.O.D.I.E.
Uh, his last name is Bodey,
Oh, okay.
but they named the town Bodie, Bodie, because the clerk couldn't read the man's handwriting.
And that's Bodie, California, right?
That is Bodie, California. The town was eventually named for W.S. Bodie.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to write that down so I can have it on my record. All right.
So
I'm excited.
this ghost town has a lot of ghost stories. You got the standard haunting in the cemetery, the lady in white, but this is one of the first ghost stories that it, it makes me hungry.
All right.
So, in the Mendocino house, they were known for one thing. They were known for their cooking. This was an Italian immigrant family who had moved west to try and find gold as well, but they ended up opening a little restaurant. Well, I'm sorry, a boarding house, but they did the cooking in this house. And everybody in the town always walked by, especially on Sunday, to smell the Italian cooking that was going on from this house.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
To this day, there are people who claim they can smell Italian breads being made, they can smell Italian dinners being made.
Just from walking by that specific
That
location.
the Mendocini house,
How do you spell Mendocini?
Mendocini.
Okay. Perfect. I may interrupt you a few times throughout as I take notes. I hope that's okay.
Not a problem.
All right.
But there have been sightings of apparitions. You know, somebody take a picture of the window and they'll see a shadow in the background in the kitchen. But the prominent ghost story here is the smell of Italian food cooking all the time.
That would be just fantastic. I'd put up with that haunting.
Oh, absolutely. So start out really tame. So the town of Bodie also has a curse.
Okay.
Um, the curse was started by park rangers, but has basically come true. The curse is take nothing from this town, not a nail, not a coin, not even a rock.
Oh wow.
And ever since they started this curse of Bodie, number one, there have been more ghost sightings in the area. And number two, they receive more mail every year from people returning items because they say as soon as they get home, their luck just turns to crap.
Yep. Things happen.
So, but the last is the Lantern Mine Man.
The Lantern Mine Man.
Yep. Apparently, I'm not a real expert on mines, so don't hold me to this. But apparently, there is a Lantern Man that used to work in the mines.
Okay.
All the other guys had the little candle flickering on their helmets.
Yeah.
But he was the Lantern Man.
Is this it? This is in the same town, like part of the same
This is
story.
still
Right?
in Bodie. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the actual ghost story.
Okay.
So I just brought up the Italian cooking because well, it's Italian cooking.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there.
Absolutely. So at night, when the moon hangs low over the desert, Bodie's old mines groan like something is alive. Hikers and paranormal investigators report seeing a dim lantern bobbing through the darkness, weaving between collapsed timbers, rising up over old shafts. Sorry, my paper just started slipping away from me. We're talking about ghosts, and my ghost is trying to take my papers.
Yep. At least he's taking your papers and not my flags.
So, so one night, a pair of photographers tried to catch this ghost. They followed the glow until it vanished behind an old cart. When they got there, there was nothing. No footprints, no light. just the sound of something faintly tapping metal. And they're not the only ones that have reported this. So they'll have people chase this Greenland. This, I'm sorry, I'm going to get sued by DC if I say that, or Marvel. They chase this Green Lantern man up until it's just where an old mine shaft is now sealed. And when you get up there, the mine shaft is sealed with a plate of metal.
Hmm.
So, don't have a lot this week, but if I can figure out how to operate a mouse. This is Bodie, California. This is what's left.
Oh, wow. Now, is that Northern California?
That is Northern California in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas.
Oh, okay.
And it is now a state park. So there is no land owned by any private owners anymore. It is all 100% state park.
And how recent was that photo?
The last one?
The first one you showed that says this is what's left of Bodie. Like those buildings are still there?
No, 2 years old. Those buildings are still there. They are maintaining them as authentic as they can. But unfortunately,
Cool.
some do need some bracing here and there.
Right.
But they are trying to maintain the buildings that are left.
Very cool. Gives you that real wild, wild west feel.
Oh yeah. So I don't have any stories of this, even though for a while I did go to ghost towns.
Mm-hmm.
So, but later on I do have a few ghost town stories of my own, plus some from my kids.
Nice. Like I said, mine are. I've been to ghost towns. I've really never had anything happen in a ghost town or in mines. I know it's not the smartest thing, but me and some buddies used to always go play around in the mines, at least part way in. And even being just part way in, it's enough to scare the crap out of you.
Oh yeah.
You hear things, you see things, you don't know if anything's going to collapse. You feel like somebody's going to lock you in there. It's a real ominous feeling being in a mine.
It is. So I love it. Do you want to do one, or you want me to do another one?
I can do one. So I don't have any of them written down, these ones, because they're personal and I've lived through it and talked about it so many times. So the first one I'll talk about was, I believe I had mentioned it on our very first episode, when we were kind of given the introduction about who we were and why we were doing what we were doing. So the date had to be, I want to say it was around 2004. I had decided to move in with my grandma. Was going to help her out, because she was getting older. And one day she had woken me up. I was working graveyards, and she woke me up and said, "Hey, Michael, the news report had just said that they found a human skeleton in the canyon behind her house." Now, where she lives, it's the East Canyon, so it runs in between two neighborhoods. And what had happened was her backyard lined up, like you went 20 feet, and then it just dropped off into the canyon. So I would always play in there as I was, when I was little. Well, what happened was a couple of, teenage kids had decided they wanted to build an underground fort. And they were in the canyon digging, and they found a skeleton. So they called the authorities, and they took the skeleton away, and it come to find out it was like a 500, 600, 700-year-old Native American skeleton. Now, by federal law, they had to put it back where it was at, and everything had to stay the same. Well, she told me this, and I thought, there's no way, she's got to be full of it or losing her mind. There's no skeletons down there. So I decided, I got up then and I walked down there, and this is probably 1 o'clock. I work graveyard, so it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I walked down there, and you see a perfect square of the yellow police caution line tape that they use, and a perfectly like rectangle hole dug about 8 feet down. And me thinking this is just kind of BS, I hopped in there and looking around, and the first thing I noticed was the bottom jawbone with all the teeth still on it. And I didn't know what it was at first, so I picked it up and I was like, oh, wow, and I put it down. And they were supposed to bury this thing, and they essentially just kind of half-assed tossed it in there and left. And over the years, I kind of thought, was there a reason why they did it that way? Was something happening to them where they did not feel comfortable around it? Or were they just being lazy and just threw it in? So I, left everything alone. I showed a friend of mine a few days later and thought that was the end of it. Well, about a week after that, every time I would go to sleep, I would start hearing things. Now, my grandma was in her 70s at the time, maybe 80s. So she was in bed by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So I knew it wasn't her. But I would start seeing things where my bed was right up against a window. You could see what looked to me like the shadow of somebody with a headdress walking by the window. And I would knock on the window and I would say things and it would just disappear. And so I thought by then, I'm probably just scaring myself, losing my mind or something. And what really got me was one night, and this happened multiple times. One night I was woken. You have animals, so you know how it is when your animal hops on the bed.
Oh, yeah.
And they walk across you or across the bed, and you feel each of their footprints like kind of pushing down. Well, that's what I felt. And then I heard a cat, and I shot straight up and was like, what in the heck is going on? Because my grandma didn't allow any animals in her house or in her yard. Like, she just didn't do pets. And I thought, okay, that must have been a dream. So every few nights, the same thing would happen. And it got to the point where I would be awake, but laying there, and you would feel it jump on the bed while you're wide awake and walking across, and you could kind of make out through the moonlight, because the lights weren't on, but where the indents of whatever it was moving along the bed. Well, shortly after that, it just miraculously stopped, I guess. And I didn't think anything of it other than, well, I'm glad that's over, because I was in my 20s. I wasn't young, but still young enough that not knowing what it was, it scared the hell out of me. Then after that, a few months after that, and I honestly had forgot about this part until maybe a year ago. The buddy that I had showed the hole and the skeleton, parts too. Mm-hmm. We decided we had always had a feeling that maybe my grandma's house, like there's something going on, but we didn't know what. And so we decided to do an investigation there. And the first thing we did was we sat at the top of her stairs. Now, when you walk in her front door, straight across like the little foyer is like 4 steps that go up to maybe a 5 foot by 5 foot landing. And she has a bookshelf built into the wall right there. And then it does a complete 90-degree turn and goes up the stairs. So similar to kind of yours.
Okay.
Then it goes up to the second floor. Well, we're sitting on the top stairs of the second floor, and we're doing an EVP session. And in the middle of the session, because we're looking down the stairs, so if you're looking down the stairs, you'll, on that little landing there, the wall right there in front she had one of those old school doorbells that had all the big like metal pipes that hung down.
Yeah.
And then on the right is where the bookshelf was built into it. So as we're sitting there watching, what's going on and asking questions, all of a sudden a book falls off the shelf. And we kind of look at each other and go, well, what's going on? Did you rig something while I wasn't paying attention? You try to justify every excuse you can and reason you can. And, we keep going. We don't think anything of it. Maybe wind. I don't know. And about 5 minutes later, more books, and they don't fall. They like fly off the shelf
Nope,
to,
that's not wind.
yeah, like in between where the stairs are and the door is, the front door of the house. So that like foyer area. And I just kind of went, that's the end of this. And we stopped having any type of investigations in the house. Um, I've lived there a couple of times since then, and it is an old house, but not as old as, for example, maybe your home. But they creak, they groan,
Oh yeah.
and that's natural. But the noises you would hear weren't that. Like there was times that, and I mean, unrelated to this story, but there would be times that my grandma or her mom, so my great grandma, I would see her walking by the door, but she had passed like 15 years earlier.
Oh jeez.
And I don't know
We had
if,
things like that.
yeah, it was real weird. I'd always hear things like that. Even when my grandmother wasn't at home, I would hear stuff like that. During the day trying to sleep, I would hear stuff like that. I constantly saw a bunch of stuff like that in the house, and I don't, I just kind of got used to it. I knew stuff would happen, but I didn't pay any mind to it. And so that's kind of where that ended up. So that's my first story, I guess.
I like it. That's a good story.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go with the viewer story next.
Okay. Anonymous
And,
viewer or want to be known viewer?
well, when you hear the story, it might give it away.
Okay.
In 1971, my ex husband and I were offered the chance to live rent free for a few months. The house had belonged to an elderly couple that had lived there for years. After the husband passed away, the wife had a mental breakdown. She ended up passing away in her backyard in the nude. All of their belongings were packed and stored in the basement room, and we were able to live there with the understanding of getting the yard and the house cleaned up and ready to sell while the house was in probate. One of the first few weeks that we were there, I was working on cleaning up the living room. I had been vacuuming, but had shut the vacuum off and sat down to enjoy a cup of coffee. While sitting there, the vacuum came back on. I proceeded to shut it off, and then it turned back on again. I was a little freaked, so I unplugged the vacuum and sat back down. The vacuum turned itself on again.
Wow.
Things were constantly being misplaced in this house, and I started talking to the lady, trying to explain to her that we were taking good care of her house. It seemed like she didn't want us there. Once I was trying to cook a turkey dinner, and the oven kept shutting off when I wasn't looking. That turkey never did get finished. Our friends started making excuses for why they couldn't come to our house. I found out later they were very uncomfortable being in the house. One friend came over for game night and put their 1-year-old daughter to sleep in our bedroom. After about 10 minutes, they went in and got their daughter and brought her out to the front room to sleep. She said something kept telling her not to leave the baby alone in the bedroom. The house had a beautiful basement, which was a recreation room that was joined by the storage room containing this couple's belongings. We thought it was the perfect room for our two boys, aged 5 and 2, to play, but every time they went down there to play, they would only stay for a few minutes and would be back upstairs. They'd not stay down there and play at all. If we were out for the evening on our return home trip, we would stay in the car while the ex went into the house and turned on a bunch of lights and made sure things were in order, before we could go in. We were only there for 3 long months, and when the house was ready for selling, the attorney gave us first right to purchase. We very quickly turned down the offer, packed our stuff, and moved out.
Wow. Um, Trying to
I
think of
can
our.
tell you, I don't remember that backyard, or I don't remember the house, but I remember the backyard vividly to this day.
Oh,
I am the 5-year-old.
yes. Yes. Because I was thinking of, honestly, I was thinking of Nadine, but then you said the dates, and I was like, no, 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 that can't be her.
Yeah,
Um,
that's actually not too far away from you. That house used to sit on Avenue G, up in the avenues.
okay. Yeah, I think what I'd heard part of that story before. Um,
I told part of that story when
yeah.
we did our introduction.
Oh, yeah. I think it was the vacuum part. Avenue G, the avenues in general. There is something up with them.
Oh yeah,
Little side note: Lilith had messaged me maybe 2 3 weeks ago and said there's a Netflix series called like True Hauntings, True Ghost Hauntings, something along that lines. And she said, "Hey, check out episodes 3 and 4. The couple lived in West Jordan and then moved, and they moved to the avenues, and it starts talking about. I mean, I guess it's a documentary because they're interviewing the mom and I think the husband. I can't remember, but they're telling everything that's going on, and it's unreal the amount of stuff that goes on up in the avenues.
oh
It's
yeah. It's it is a beautiful neighborhood,
yes,
but
very
at
much
night
so.
it turns into something different.
Yeah, there was. I don't know where I saw it or heard it from, but there was a house up there. I don't know if the original owner um, was like a serial killer or he was like a sexual predator. I don't know exactly what it was, but in the house they had rooms that were like secret rooms throughout the house, and that's where he would take whoever to do whatever with. And fast forward through the years, somebody had moved into the house and it was haunted and a bunch of shit was going on. And when they did the what do you call it, like the property, the history of the property,
Yeah.
they found out who it was. And I wish I could remember, but yeah, it was creepy to say the least. It somewhere I wouldn't live.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the avenues, that's
Yeah, that was I remember the stories.
mm-hmm.
Like I remember being told the day it happened about the vacuum,
Yeah,
or the day after, real close to when it happened. I can't tell you what the inside of that house looks like to save my life,
right.
but I could draw you a map of the entire backyard right down to where the evil tree stood. And yes, there is an evil tree. There was in that backyard.
Uh, Now, was that as a 5-year-old you thought the tree was evil, or there was something
Well,
up with it?
it's like everything else in the avenues. You can just feel there's something else there.
Wow, that's there are things like that when you say you don't remember this part of it, but you remember that part, and you can draw a detailed map. There's things that I bring up to my parents all the time. I say, hey, do you remember? Like there is one that I brought up the other day. I said, hey, do you remember when we lived back home in Brunswick? And I walked along the train tracks with this person, excuse me, and then we got into the engine and got a box of Cheerios and a bunch of flares, and us being dumb kids throwing the flares and got the cops called on us. And she goes, no. And then I'd start telling everything about the house. And she's like, how the hell do you remember this stuff? You were like 6. It's like, I don't know.
It's amazing. I mean, whether it's something truly fantastic or something traumatizing, what a kid can remember.
Yeah. Like there are so many things that I just randomly remember, and it's a good memory, good or bad memory, or scary or something. And I try to talk to my parents about it because they were involved, and they're like, no, we have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We remember this house, we remember that room, but we have no idea what you're doing. Like, how? It's, yeah. But then, okay. So while we're on the subject of horror stories, and I'm talking about my parents, that did remind me of something else that my mom still brings up to me pretty often these days. So ever since I was little, I honestly don't remember this at all. Let's see. She married my dad when I was, I want to say 7, just before I had just turned 7, or maybe I just turned 8, one of the two. And she said growing up until I was probably 12 or 13, maybe, that I would walk into their room while they were middle of the night, and I would just stand like, have you ever seen Paranormal Activity, the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, you know how she wakes up and just stands by the bed and
Yeah.
just keeps going? Yeah, so essentially that. My parents would be asleep, and in the middle of the night, I would walk to their bed and I would just stand there and look at them, and I'd be there for hours. And then finally, you get that sensation that somebody's watching you, and you wake up, and I would just
Oh
be
yeah.
standing there hovering over them. And they said it happened constantly. And I guess I would sleepwalk. I don't know. I have no recollection of it at all.
So, come to Thanksgiving, the Friday for Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, we may have a special guest with us, and I'll tell you stories about that little one.
Oh, yeah. I
We didn't nickname her Chucky for nothing.
yeah, it's I really don't know. I mean, I remember little things like that. And see, I was never diagnosed with sleepwalking or anything sleep related other than I just have insomnia. But I remember at my other house I lived at in West Jordan here, my dad I'd fall asleep on the couch, and my dad say, hey Mike, you know, you need to go down to bed. And my room is in the basement, and I would say, okay. I'd pick up my blanket and my pillows. And most people, when they get woken up, they kind of stumble down the stairs. I would literally, stairs are right here, I would just walk, and I would wake up on the bottom of at the bottom of the stair. I would just fall down the whole entire flight,
Wow.
no clue. And I'd wake up, and he'd be looking at me laughing, going, dude, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, jeez.
So, all right. Enough about my weird sleeping habits. Any other
We can't talk about weird habits here.
yeah. Oh, wait, you told the last story, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, so this one, I I don't know if you heard this or not, in or parts of it. So it's still a touchy subject. Again, it's the same guy that I showed the bones to, and did he's kind of, me and him are like two peas in a pod. We do everything together. Um, I met him when I moved to West Jordan, since almost 12 years old. We still hang out every week. He's always somehow involved in everything. But I had just moved back from Georgia, so this is 2001. I was only gone for maybe 3 months, and it was Thanksgiving night. Me, him, and another friend had decided we wanted to go camping. It was in like the Stockton, Tooele area, and my one buddy couldn't get away from his family because it was Thanksgiving night. Couldn't get away from his family, obligations, and being 19 and just young, we just said, what the hell, we're just going to go anyway without you, which is still a sore subject because we left him at home. And I think that's where our bad luck started, because we get up there, and my buddy that I ended up going up there with, do you remember they've got to be like Swiss or Swedish, they're the ponchos that you can wear, but they're a canvas, and there's like,
Oh yeah.
5 ponchos, and you button them and clip them together, and they form a teepee.
Yep.
Okay, the old military style, and there's the metal pole in the middle. Well, that's what he had, and so that's what we took. And we get up to where we're at, and I can't remember the exact location, but I remember there was a place nearby called, I believe it was nearby, the Pet Cemetery is what we called it. It was a legitimate. One second, I am like getting uncomfortable here. One second, I gotta readjust. Okay, it was a legitimate pet cemetery, and we always would camp there or nearby, and weird stuff would happen, and that was kind of the highlight of going there. Well, this night we had set everything up and hung out, had dinner, did our thing, and then decided it's time to go to bed. Now, mind you, there's nobody here. You know that area, I'm sure, pretty well. There is nothing out there. You have cedar trees and dirt roads and nothing for miles. And we had decided, time to go to bed. Got in bed, and we're just kind of laying in our sleeping bags talking, and you can hear like younger it was off in the distance, younger, like a girl and a boy laughing. Like, that's weird, there's nobody out here. We go back to talking, and it happens again, but closer this time. And we go, well, that's strange, there's nobody here. So we get out, and we have, flashlights and everything. We're looking all around, walking around, nothing. So we get back in the tent. Same thing. About 10 minutes later, it all starts up again. Then it starts getting closer. And then it's like you can hear them running around. And we're like, okay, this is odd. So we get out, and nothing. Looking around, no one around, can't figure out what's going on. So third time's the charm, we tried to go back to bed. This time it goes from being, kind of a little bit in the distance to they're right around our tent, running and laughing. And like, if you've ever played a trick on somebody in a tent, when you hit the tent or you slide your hand on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds probably, they had to be boy and girl, 12, 13 years old, giggling, laughing, hitting the tent, running around. By this time, we're both freaked out, and we don't know what the hell is going on. So we get out of the car, or out of the tent, and get in the car, and we drive around all the trails that are around there, shining spotlights for about 45 minutes. Nothing out there. We made a fire, and so the fire was still going, and we saw where our tent was, and we had drove quite a ways, and there's nothing out there. We got back, and we shined our lights all around the ground. No footprints but ours. Don't know what it is. And then it got to the point, like, we're trying to figure out what to do, and just out of reach of your flashlight, you can hear them laughing and running around. So normally you would think, okay, these are just some punk kids being asses, a little bit farther than we can see, and they're screwing with us. But when you've already been out and driving around, and for a fact there is nobody, And that area, I'm sure you know, the cedar trees that they have aren't typical. They're cedar bushes. They're not
Yeah.
big.
No,
They're
not at
literally like,
all.
yeah, 2-3 feet. You could barely hide a little miniature teacup poodle behind that thing. And you would see tracks. You would see another vehicle. You would see their flashlights going off.
Out in that area, you'd see a vehicle coming for miles.
Yeah, and there was. I remember the night. There was nothing there at all, and so standing there and hearing it again, I looked at him and, excuse my language, I went, "Fuck this." I had a Mustang, little, not like the typical Mustang you see now, but like the 1990 Mustang 50. It's got an actual trunk on it. And I
Okay.
opened the trunk. I grabbed every single thing that I could and I shoved it in the trunk. And it doesn't all fit because it's not rolled up. And I tried to close the trunk and couldn't get it closed. And I said, "Yeah, get in the car or I'm leaving you here." And
Well, yeah.
I drove off and then got to a point where I felt like I could rearrange everything and put it away. And
There's a difference between ghost hunting and being hunted by ghosts.
yeah, 100%. And it's something now that I've asked him since, "Hey, do you remember this?" And at first he would talk about, "Yeah, dude, it was crazy." Now he just looks at me and goes, "Yeah." And then that's it. He won't say anything else about it. And
Wow.
I've never been able to explain it. It was just really weird. Like any normal person, you would think somebody's just fucking with you. And when you spotlight for miles around and there's nothing, and it was
Excuse me.
almost, the only way to explain it was like it teleported from you hearing it off in the distance to the same exact laugh. Everything sounded the same, but going from the distance to right in your face just immediately.
Ugh. No, you can keep that one. I'm a ghost hunter, but I'm a coward ghost hunter.
Yeah, it was I mean, I don't know what it was. All I know is it happened, can't explain it, and it was not a fun, and I don't think I've been back since.
Wow.
So,
I I don't know what I'd do in that situation, man.
I'll tell you, it was hard not to pee yourself.
Well, I wasn't ruling that one out at all.
Oh, there is a part that the only other time that I have been, I would say, that scared, and this is just a quick little tiny snippet. Me and well, the buddy we had left, but the one I do everything with, we had decided to go up to Bell's Canyon, and we were going to build a survival shelter. And I brought a tent, which we both didn't want, but I did just as a safety backup. And started raining, so I put the tent up. One person tent. We got in because it's pouring by now, and it's so small. We're basically like almost on top of each other, like that. And if we laid on our backs, it kind of widened the tent out because we were resting up against the sides, and our boots touched the end. All of a sudden, it got real cold, and so we opened the tent, and it was a complete whiteout blizzard. So we're like, we're not getting back out. We'll just chill here. There were a lot of wild turkeys in the area, and we heard something walking around, thought it was a turkey, and it kept hitting our boots at the end of the tent and pawing at it. And we're both like, okay, what do we do? And I was absolutely terrified because this is not a turkey. We wouldn't get out of the tent. We didn't know what it was until that morning. In the snow, it had been walking around enough that it had made a little like moat around the tent,
Okay.
with big mountain lion tracks.
Oh no, no.
Yeah, and I go, I mean, this isn't an edited podcast. I go armed everywhere I go. And that tent and that incident, I mean, we're both sitting there like, okay, do we because you're still relatively close to the city. You don't want to have to do anything like that.
Yeah.
But when you feel a big animal, like trying to essentially test the waters to see if they can have a little snack for dinner. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very, very
No,
terrifying.
you can have that one, man.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I've got. What I've got. My enjoyable camping experiences.
Well, have you ever been up to Winter Quarters, the Winter Quarters mine?
Oh, that sounds really. Which one is that? That sounds really familiar.
It is. It was called Winter Quarters because back in the day that was the Winter Quarters, and then when
Right.
they started mining it, it created the town of Schofield.
Yeah. I just looking it up. The Winter Quarters coal mine was 1 mile west of Schofield.
Yep.
Winter Quarters, Canada. I believe I have.
This was a big mine. They were raking a lot of stuff out of this mine. It was a coal mine.
Yep. I that looks familiar. I'm looking at the images. Yes, I believe I've been there.
May 1st, 1900. Beautiful sunny day in Schofield. And at 10:28, the residents heard a deafening explosion, and the number 4 mine had collapsed. I mean, it didn't collapse. It blew the hell up.
Yeah, it like imploded on itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, this was the worst mine disaster ever, killing over 200 people or killing around 200 people.
Wow.
They don't have an exact count because some fathers were listed as not at work, only to find out their son went to work for them. So there was children in the mine, and well, we don't want to get that out in the news.
Yeah.
So, but officially, it was about 199 men are listed on the memorial up there. I bring this one up not because I'm reading anymore. This is my story of Frisco.
Okay.
I had brought my family up because we heard stories. You can even look this up in the Salt Lake Tribune. There is a tree out near the opening of the old number 4 mine, and there's a taunting ghost that lives in that tree.
A talking ghost.
Taunting.
Oh, taunting ghost.
Yes.
Ooh.
He will laugh at you. He will sing. And they have tried to get this thing on an audio or video recording, but as soon as the equipment comes out, it's quiet.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, thank you.
The Salt Lake Tribune reporter didn't believe it. So he went up to investigate it, and he actually heard the singing. He actually heard the voice in the tree. But nobody knows who this person in the tree would have been. There are some other ghost stories. They've got the ghost story of the headless miner that still roams the working mines around there because it is still
Right.
a mining area. So I decided to bring my family out in our minivan, and it was either early spring or late fall because there was a little bit of snow on the ground up on top of Soldier Summit.
Mm-hmm.
So we go up there, and you can still, even though it's gated off, last time I checked, you could still go to Winter Quarters because it's on the National Historic Registry.
Right.
But the property that it sits on is owned by a private hunting club.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go up there, they just ask that you shut the gate behind you
Okay.
and don't destroy their stuff. We're out there way out of season. There's nobody up walking the hills when there's snow on the ground, except hunters and crazy people like you and I.
Right.
So we're going to go up there. We're going to listen to this. There is nobody else that is walking up this trail. We are the first fresh footprints. And it was probably about 100 yards wide. And it was just an open area that wasn't under trees. So it had the snow. Every place else was, just a little bit of mud or completely dry. So we go up there and there's not a footprint in the snow at all. We go up and we're looking around. You can see, well, let me show you. There's this is what winter quarters originally looked like, the mine.
Okay. Yep.
This last I checked, this building was still standing. But yeah, in 1900, this was the worst mine disaster, and that's the cemetery where they're all buried.
Dang.
Even today, it's ranked like sixth or seventh. It's still in the top 10. So anyway, we're going up. We're going to listen to this voice. We're going to go up to where the coal is still on fire and snow never. I mean, it's always dry there because
Right.
the coal's on fire underneath. You'll have flowers blooming in February on that patch of ground.
Interesting. That's cool.
So we go up there, and it's a freaky feeling up there. You can definitely tell there's some things that are off, but we never heard the voice. So we stayed up there a while and did some ghost hunting or some ghost town hunting. Looking around at the building and stuff like that. And we thought, what a bust! This really sucked. And I didn't tell my family this until we got back in the car and we were leaving. As we were coming back down the trail, I happened to look down and there was an extra set of footprints walking through that snow on the way behind us. Fresh prints. Nobody else came up. Nobody walked by us and said hi. But those tracks ended before the snow ended and started in the snow.
Oh, wow.
So whatever it was just walking that patch of snow one way and then disappeared.
Dang. Yeah,
And my family didn't believe me, so we had to go back and look again. But yeah, and it was. I mean, I know what cowboy boots imprints look like today.
right.
That wasn't it. Whatever it was a heel and flat.
So like old school work boots.
Yeah, exactly. No tread on it, but it looked exactly like that.
Wow.
And it was so we weren't up there longer than, I don't know, an hour.
Mm-hmm. And you would have seen somebody come up there. I mean,
Yep.
that's because when you go to places like that, you look at everything. You look at the sky, you look at the buildings, you look to see if there's, I don't care who you are, even if you're just somebody that likes to visit old towns, you look inside to see if somebody is still there or you see someone.
Oh yeah.
And you look at the ground, it's just part of the charm. So you would see those things. And when you look down and you see only your footprints, you're like, oh, okay. But then you look and you see there's multiple sets behind you. Okay, there's something off.
The really weird part about it is it was as we were walking back, or as we were walking up is when it was walking with us,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have been on our right hand side, and it kept stride with us. So it wasn't like it was staggered. It was like it was walking right next to us all the way up.
Yeah.
Never missed a beat.
So did you get the impression, you say it's walking with you. Do you get the impression that it's like, for example, that when the mine workers come out of the mine, they all walk together, they're all going to break or going home and clocking out for the, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel it was like that, or like an ominous that it's walking just as fast as you because it's following you with ill intent?
We had a uneasy feeling, but never an evil. You know what I'm saying? Not evil, but never a feeling that
dread.
Yeah. My guess is, I don't know, maybe it's just a spirit walking from town going to work.
Yeah, and happen to be walking with you, thinking maybe you're going to work too.
Yeah, you're walking in a group. Why wouldn't you hang out?
Yeah. Let me winter.
So, but that the story doesn't end there.
Okay.
From where we came out, you where this area was kind of down in a little dip. And then when you came back up this tiny little incline, you're overlooking the city of Schofield
Okay.
and you're looking directly at the cemetery. And it wasn't dark, but it was starting to get dark. You know, it was
Mhm.
not quite sunset yet, but not full sun. And I
Okay.
looked down to the cemetery and I actually saw the glowing red and glowing white lights of the cemetery that they say were the mourners. Because where the cemetery is now is where they were bringing the bodies.
Oh, okay. So, like the
It was
like
like the triage area.
yeah, like the candle. When you say the mourner, the red, the
Yeah,
light, the mourners like candlelight vigil type,
yeah.
following along. And okay.
And I mean, I'm not the only person that's seen it. I don't know anybody else in our group that did, but there are reports of seeing ghost lights in that cemetery. But I will tell you, there was nothing uneasy about being up there. It felt off. It felt like you knew something tragic happened there.
Yeah.
But of course, we did. We'd studied the mine disaster before we went up. But the really strange part, do you remember the mine disaster? What was it? Late '90s up in that area, trapped a bunch of miners.
Yes. I don't remember all the details of it.
That's on the backside of this mine.
So if that's on the backside of this one and the winter's quarters, all that, if it's all in that same area, I would be. I say it's highly likely that it's that area
Yeah,
for sure. And I
I
know that a lot of, and I don't say this with any like disrespect, but I mean, as you know, there's a lot of Native Americans at that time, and they had a lot of sacred areas.
oh yeah,
And from burial grounds to ceremonial grounds to, but a lot, everything is sacred to them in one way or another. But when you start looking at their burial grounds, so I'm wondering if maybe you know that could have had something.
could very well be. I don't know if they were directly in line, but yes, the number four mine on this side.
Mhm.
It's a long hike, but you hike up over the top of that hill and come back down. You're in the other mining company where that accident happened.
Wow. Yeah, the
I
only.
and don't hold me to that 100%. I'm going by a story that a friend of mine whose dad worked in that mine and was actually in that mine when it collapsed.
Oh, wow, that would be horrible.
He told me that it is just on the other side of that number four calamity.
That would be. I couldn't imagine being in a mine having that happen. I
No,
mean, the only mine that I know about, like really, and I don't know where it's at, and I honestly heard it a few years ago on social media, but I didn't know that it happened in here or here in Utah was the Nutty Putty mine,
oh yeah,
where that guy wedged himself in all pretty much upside down trying to get
yep,
in, and they couldn't pull him out. They couldn't do anything, so they went, "Sorry, bud," and blew the end of the mine, and he's still there.
yeah. So it's
That's
I used to enjoy going out spelunking, but I
yeah.
can't do it anymore.
That's I don't blame you. I mean, like I was saying earlier, me and my buddies, we would go. I mean, I've actually let me I may be able to. Can I send you pictures on here that you would be able to put up?
No, I'd have to actually put them up in make an AVI file out of them. I mean, this will not let me do a picture. Oh, send it to me. I'll open it up on the screen. We'll do it that way.
Okay, yeah. Let me see if I can. Okay, let me find the pictures. Okay, give me just 1 second here. How can I do that one?
So, but the story, while you're looking for that, the
Okay.
story about this is, yeah, you can stand at the trail going up to the mine and look down and see the cemetery.
Okay.
But at the same time, I've heard stories where from the cemetery you can look up the canyon to where the mine goes, and you will see. Some people claim to see like a bluish greenish lantern,
Okay.
and some people can still swear they see like remnants of fire up there.
Wow. I sent you those on Messenger. So I forgot my buddy had sent these, or he saved me a file of these. Um, let me open back up into here. So, oh, there we go. You're on the screen. Yeah. So we would go to these mines, and it was a lot of fun to go in. And I remember being younger, and we would be upset, like we knew a mine was there, but we'd get up there and it was either boarded up or walled off or something, so you could not get in. And it was disappointing because we were excited to look. And am I able to move the pictures?
No,
Oh, okay. I just saw the little arrow. I was like, ooh, maybe I can do it. So which one is okay? I don't remember where this was. Whoa, what the heck is that?
I'm going the wrong way. Sorry.
Well, I was like, I don't remember that. So we climbed down into it. There was a bunch of different shafts and stuff. But I remember being in this mine, and it was fun, but it was so scary because you don't know what's going to happen. And I wish I could remember where this was at. That the thing that I found interesting about I know a lot of them are like this, but this particular one is you would have trails that are like tunnels that go which way, and all of a sudden you'd have a hole right in the middle of the ground that it would drop straight to the next level. And they had
Yeah.
these, and a lot of these, like the wood and stuff for the buckets and all that. It's an Apache.
Oh, nice.
Did you hear it?
I did.
Good old this. Well, you know where I live, the Airport 2 road. That's right here.
Yeah.
Um, but when you have all the wood and still up, it's easy to see, so you don't make a mistake. But there's times that it's so dark where we're going, and all of a sudden there's just a huge hole that one more step and you would have been down 200 feet.
Wow.
But that he took these photos because of how it was fascinating how they like rigged up everything so it would not collapse on them.
Oh, that was the last one.
Okay. That's just there was another photo that he took of me. He didn't I was up on my cell phone on the top of a hill off, and we're in the middle of nowhere, so I thought, okay, no bathrooms. I'm going to do what I'm doing, talking on my phone, going to the bathroom. Like a year later, he sent me a picture. He took a picture of me up on the hill peeing.
Nice guy.
Yeah. My bestest best buddy. So, but yeah, the mining stuff, there are so many stories around that.
Oh, yeah. So I got another viewer story, actually two.
Okay.
So the first one is called the West Jordan Apartments, and this is from my daughter, uh, and this happened directly after we came back from the town of Frisco when she brought the scissors back.
Okay. These are the apartments that were just up from me, right?
Uh, Over there behind the old Albertsons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had just got back from Frisco, and she writes, I feel like everything that happened in these apartments was related to our trip in Frisco. Between my mom and I, we brought a few things home with us. Keep in mind, we were very, very new to ghost hunting and didn't know a lot about what could happen. I brought home the scissors and some broken liquor bottles and some broken shards of glass from plates and such. We didn't think anything of it, not knowing that these things could be attached to things like that. There were a lot of things that happened, but I'll talk about the two I remember the most. One night while I was asleep, I could feel something jumping on my bed. It was enough to wake me up. I heard a growl and then a man whispering to me, telling me, I'll keep you safe. It was really strange in the moment, but I went back to sleep and didn't think anything of it. Another time, I had cleaned my room, like spotless. Mom approved spotless. I, I went to school. It was a normal day. When I came home, I found my closet doors wide open, one of them kind of hanging off the track. They were the sliding closet doors, and all of my clothes were all over my room. I know no one in the house would have done that because, well, they were thrilled that I'd cleaned my room. And I remember both those stories really well. It was a strange apartment.
Wow. It,
Um,
I was gonna ask a question. Is the other story, is that by the same person?
yep, that's both. That's both my daughter.
Okay, so then I'm not
Oh
gonna.
no, we still got another story from her too, but that's
Oh,
a different location.
oh, okay. Go on with the other story, and then I'll say what I had to say about what you were, what you mentioned.
All right. Now those two that I just told about the West Jordan apartments, I knew about those. The one she wrote here, this is the first time I'd heard about this, and this was our West Jordan house when they first started building way out there at the end of 7800.
Yep.
Yeah, we bought one of those houses out there. This is brand new. Like we were able to design the interior new. That's how new they were.
S-
They were being built they were being built at the time. We didn't know the history of the land, obviously, but I'm sure we brought little things with us. Plus, whatever could have happened on that land. We were close to where plenty of settlers had come, lots of good and bad people. I won't talk about all the stuff that happened, just one that stuck out to me and still freaks me out to this day. I was on video chat with my friend who's stationed in Japan at the time. I was on my laptop sitting up against the wall behind my bed. I didn't have a headboard, just a mattress and a box springs. No, we weren't cheap. That's all she wanted. And as we were talking, my bed moves about an inch or two away from the wall. It wasn't a subtle move, it jerked me. My friend even witnessed it and asked what happened. I set the laptop down and I looked. Sure enough, my bed was about 2 inches away from the wall. I decided that night to move my bed. The next few nights were weird, but I woke up one morning and I had this strange stinging burning sensation in my shoulder. I checked in the mirror and I saw what looked like a bite mark. I took a picture of it on my digital camera at the time. When I went to show the pictures to my friend, they were gone. No evidence. Even the bite mark had cleared up.
Wow. Yeah.
The West Jordan apartments, I would actually see somebody at the end of the hallway almost nightly.
Yeah. Those West Jordan has a lot of crazy stuff that happens. Because I'm off of 78th and 40th. Like, I walk as soon as I get to the end of my street, I turn right and I walk like, I don't know, maybe a half a mile down, and
Uh-huh.
that's 78th.
Okay.
So you know where the okay, you know where Maverick is on 78th and 40th?
I do.
Okay, I live by that. Like 3 streets up from that. So right across from the soccer field. So I know the area you're
Okay.
talking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's always weird stuff that happens. So what I thought, are you done with
Um,
those
well,
her
she's got
stories?
another story here, but this one, this one is just her perspective on Frisco.
Oh, okay.
So, but the apartment and the house, those are the ones I really wanted to read.
Yeah. Well,
I,
when
I
you
don't want to read that one because, yeah, the it brings up the hammer again.
oh, okay. Well, then then since you brought up the in the first story you read by her, um, the scissors. Are these the same ones that you had referenced in earlier episodes?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I
Matter
thought
of
you were
fact,
going with that. And
matter of fact, let me.
if you can talk about that so that it gets like all the details are
Yeah,
correct.
I'll read her full story, but I am
Okay.
going to actually pull up because she sent a picture of the scissors.
And these are the ones that just recently made a reappearance, right?
Yes, they are now in Maine.
How? Holy crap.
Uh, so
They must love your daughter.
what am I looking for? Oh, I know. You know, if I were technologically savvy, I'd have this figured out already.
I think we both would. I'm technologically savvy with certain aspects of it. When it comes to this like audio visual recording,
Yeah.
I really don't know what to do. Twiggy.
Okay. We'll do it this way. All right. So not the greatest shot in the world, but those right there are the scissors.
Oh wow. So where did those scissors originate from? Like where did they come where did how did you guys acquire them in the first place?
Well, I will read it
Oh,
from
okay.
her story. I don't remember the dates when we went, but I believe it was between sixth and seventh grade for me. So I was around 12 years old when my family and I went to spend the night in Frisco. Frisco is an old mining town in Utah. I don't remember the entire history, but yet I while I'm reading this, I'll even pull up Frisco.
Perfect.
When we got to Frisco, we had set up our tent under a large tree. As we were setting up the tent, I remember looking at the tree because it was really large, perfect for shade. And it sort of had a split. It was sort of split in two from the trunk. There was a little concave section in the tree. I didn't think anything of it and went about my day. We explored, found a bunch of cool stuff, foundations, buildings, etc. We did a little bit of ghost hunting later that night at the nearby cemetery, where one of my uncles had some incredible experiences. So we were happy to get some cool evidence ourselves. We eventually went to bed and things were fine until early morning, probably between 1 to 3 a.m. We woke up to footsteps around our tent, but they didn't belong to any animal. They were definitely human footsteps circling our tent. My dad exited the tent only to discover the closest person to us was about a mile or two up the road at the base of the hill. So there's no way that they could have driven down, walked around our tent, and left in a matter of minutes. Nothing else, to my knowledge, happened that night. However, the next morning I was looking at the same tree, looking at the same dip between the large branches and the trunk, and there was this pair of rusty scissors stabbed into the tree, not just placed gently, but physically stabbed into the tree. Naturally, I've tried to take them home with me, and to this day, I have yet been able to get rid of them. Trust me, I've tried.
Wow. Yeah.
We don't know where those scissors came from. And the area around our tent, we explored that pretty good. I will tell you, when your uncle says there is no need to bring a metal detector out to an old abandoned mine, he's right. The whole place is metal.
Yeah.
I would have dug where I didn't hear tone.
That to go around and look at the area and see everything and know that they weren't there and then all of a sudden they're there.
Yeah,
That and
and
knowing you're
she's not the only one that looked there. I mean, we were there with my brother and his now ex-wife. We were there. Sue was there. So we all heard the sound of footsteps around. And we had all pretty much checked this tree out because, to be honest, it was a cool looking tree.
yeah.
It looked like maybe it had been struck by lightning at one point, which caused the trunk to actually break in two, and then it just continued growing. It was a really cool tree.
Yeah, and well, didn't she try to get rid of them in West Jordan and the other house and then
She tried to. I don't think she tried to get rid of them when we left the apartments, but she tried to get rid of them when she moved out of the West Jordan house and into her own apartment, or into her first apartment. She threw them away then,
and they just
and
showed up
they
again?
didn't show back up until she moved to Magna.
Yeah.
So
Watch out,
I
dog.
think I think I just froze for a second, but I'm back.
Okay, one sec. My dog kept getting up in my face, and
Ah,
I
so
don't think everybody wants to watch a Halloween horror podcast with my dog just going like this, licking my face the whole time.
I, my daughters probably would.
Yeah,
They like puppy kisses.
I like
But
her.
yeah, I want to say that she tried to throw these scissors away at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, well,
And the
because
last time I remember watching her, you were there on moving day. You know that big container we had.
yeah,
They were in that container.
the one at your house.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, because the house I always forget the gentleman's name that the one she lived with.
Scott.
That, what's that?
Scott.
That's right. He's the one that had that Tesla, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So I remember when we helped pack up all her stuff there, and I remember her saying something or you saying something about it, and then the big container that you had and how it was brought up that we're getting rid of these. So how the hell would they end up in Maine is just a complete mystery.
yeah. Mm. Whoever gave these scissors to her wanted to make sure she had these scissors forever.
Yep. And she's not had anything, for lack of a better term, and I don't really like the word, but evil happen. Like,
Not that she's told me.
so it's,
I mean, she's had strange. The,
yeah,
the Magna house they lived in, they it was haunted,
right. But it
but
wasn't,
no, nothing like it out to get them.
yeah. So nothing to do with the actual scissors. It's just like whoever had it before wanted her to have it and will not let her get rid of it. So I almost get the impression that there's a purpose for it. There's a purpose for her having it. And
Yeah,
when that time comes, she'll know. That's
Well, as many times as she's thrown that away, I'm sure she'd like to know now.
yeah, makes it 3,000 miles away. I would almost, if that was me, I would want to say, all right, you know what? I know I'm not going to be able to get rid of them. I've already made that abundantly clear. I would have it put up on a display somewhere.
That's it's not a
Almost,
bad idea.
almost, because there you could do a shadow box with the scissors, hang it up, or you could even just something as simple as a little hook through one of the the circles that you put your fingers through, and just have it displayed. And
Yeah.
it's a great conversation. Why do you have scissors framed?
Let me tell you.
Yeah, let me tell you. I threw them away in Utah. Well, why do you have them now? Well, we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah. If we knew, we would let you know.
Yeah. Very cool.
Excuse me. I am so sorry.
Not a problem. So
So,
there is. I thought I had it here. Maybe I don't. Not that one. Let me close this up. Well, so since we're just talking about haunted things real quick, if you're done with yours, I had one that I wanted to see what you.
absolutely.
Let me find it. Oh, Ben Lomond. I don't know how you say it. Lomond. Hotel in Ogden. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know a lot about it. I've heard a few things about it, but I don't know a lot about it.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's okay, I'll give you a quick.
Absolutely.
So the Ben Lomond Hotel is the historic Bigelow Hotel. It is on Washington Boulevard in Ogden, and it was built in 1927. It is a historic 12-story hotel. Status. It was renamed the Bigelow Hotel in 2017. It's considered one of Utah's 3 most haunted buildings, with decades of reports from guests, employees, security staff, and paranormal investigators. So there's a few famous hauntings that I thought was interesting. Number one was room 1101, which is the bride's room. And that's the most notorious room in the entire hotel. According to the story, it says, according to long-running local legend, a young bride drowned in the bathtub on her wedding night in the 30s or 40s. A few hours later, her mother, who was staying across the hall in room 1102, supposedly suffered a heart attack after hearing the news. The activity that they hear is the bath water will turn on by itself. Sobbing or gasping heard when nobody's inside. Guests feel like they're being watched and or touched. There's whispering that goes on near the bed, and then you get a sudden strong scent of perfume, and the door will unlock or open on its own. Most people, it says, refuse to stay in that room after the first night. And then room 1102, which was the mother's room, the lights turn on and off, full apparitions of a woman in a nightgown, a heavy, oppressive feeling, shadows moving across walls, footsteps pacing the room when it's empty. It's considered even more uncomfortable than 1101. The 11th floor lady in white, which is number 3, and that was the last one I had. Guests often report a woman in I can't even read my own writing. A woman in a white 1920 style dress wandering the corridor late at night. The behaviors that people have seen from this apparition is she appears really confused. She'll walk towards the elevator and then just vanishes. And then she'll vanish into a wall or a doorway, and she'll be there, but the second you approach her, she'll immediately disappear. There are a lot of reports that think she is the bride from 1101. But that
Why have I not heard about this place before?
really, I back when I never did anything there, but back when I ran a paranormal group, We did a bunch in Ogden, but that was a place we had never gone and wanted to, and we're in the process of it, and we just kind of stopped doing investigations at that time. But I mean, there's even others. There's the Matron, which is a 6th floor apparition. Oh, that scared me because
Sorry,
no,
I
that's
couldn't. It was coming out before I got to the mute button.
oh yeah, literally scared. Oof. Okay, now I'm good. Um, it's an older woman, wears old-fashioned housekeeping clothes. Often seen pushing the cart, the trolley, the what you call it, the maid cart, the housekeeping cart. That's what I'm looking for. Um,
I was still racking my brain after you said housekeeping cart. I'm like, there's a name for it. Yeah,
yeah,
housekeeping cart.
yeah, yeah. That's how dumb I am right now. Um, Multiple employees over the decades have reported seeing the same exact figure. Um, let's see, the ballroom ghosts, a historic ballroom, or the historic ballroom is known for full body apparitions seen dancing at night, music faintly heard when the area is completely empty. There's a man in a tuxedo standing by the windows. Um, and because of the ballroom ghost, it's caused, multiple security guards to quit and just up and leave, won't come back. There's
Wow.
an elevator ghost, which is one of the hotel's longest running stories. The elevator will stop on the 11th floor without being called to that floor. The doors opening to an empty hallway. Elevator moving between floors with no passengers. A dark figure can be seen reflected in the elevator mirror. Um, and, so basically everybody there says it has a mind of its own. And then the last one is the basement and the old speakeasy. During Prohibition, the hotel had a hidden speakeasy area in the basement, which people said, there's shadows that dart in between rooms, male voices arguing, really cold spots. People are touched and or pushed, and the smell of cigar smoke. Um, and then people believe that that's related to things that have happened during its time as a speakeasy, during Prohibition. So,
Well, I want to go there now.
yeah, you'll have to look it up. It's really cool, really pretty building, really cool looking.
So it's
Um,
the Bigelow now,
yeah, it's called the Bigelow Historic Hotel.
as in our buddy Bigelow.
I believe so.
We're
Um,
tight with him. He'll let us go in.
yeah, let's see. Bigelow, Ogden, Utah. Um, let's see. It doesn't. I can't see anything on it. Historic. Let's see. Known as the Ben Lomond. It doesn't. Oh, Wikipedia. Let me see if this will tell me if it is the same. I think it is the same Bigelow.
Yeah, that's where he made his money, was hotels.
Yeah. On site of the Bigelow previously stood the 5-story. Let's see. Yeah, I believe it is.
Cool. Yeah, we're tight with him. He watches our podcast, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a really cool hotel. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. What is going on with my thing? On with it. Oh, I think I closed the other one. Oh no, there it is. Um, there's a lot of things that go on from it. And then of course, I'm sure you know about the Tooele Hospital,
Oh yeah.
um, which they, aka Asylum 49. I know there was a haunted house that they did in it. Um, there's a paranormal group, and I can't remember the name of them out here locally that they basically, I guess they essentially operate out of there. That's they do tours there and stuff, and they've wanted in the past. We talked to them, and they wanted to work with us in doing stuff, and I never went. But there's apparently a lot of crazy stuff there as well.
There is so much to investigate in Utah.
Yep, I mean
It
there
is amazing.
the Rio Grande Depot.
So we do have one more story.
Yep. Oh, yes, we do. So let
Yeah.
me, I think it's this.
So this story is from our good friend Colin Martin of the Horrific podcast, and it is one of his stories. It's probably going to take Alien Mike and I both to read this one.
Yep.
So
I'm
if you hear my voice going, just go ahead and jump in and take over.
okay. You want to read the first page and I'll get the second, or you go and I'll catch up.
All right. The sound of marble chipping and breaking echoed around the crypt. The restful silence of the dead broken by the frantic pounding of a sledgehammer. Eric was breathing hard. Physical labor was not his forte. The rivulets of sweat and flushed features showed a man who was more used to operating a keyboard instead of a builder's tool. Yet here he was, having broken into the mausoleum and now trying to crack open that bitch Levine's tomb. Eric didn't want to think about the prison time he may be facing. Was grave robbing still a crime committed these days? He wondered briefly, almost laughing at the absurdity of this random thought now intruding into his head. Sure, what was a little jail time, especially if it finally meant an end to the torment he was being subjected to? Anyway, he wasn't here to steal or to take. He was here to return something that belonged here, something that he shouldn't have been mixed up in, yet here he was. Eric paused to catch his breath and found himself reflecting on the circumstances that had placed him in this insane scenario. It was a bright September day when Eric found himself walking down Main Street of a Wilshire village. He was heading home from an area meeting which his firm held every quarter. Eric liked to take a break when he could from the main towns and cities. Working in sales, he spent his days constantly in the hustle and bustle, always having to maintain high energy as he looked after clients, trying to get that extra contact or add-on package. It was nice to take a step back from it all, even if it was only for an hour's stop before driving back to London. Once he returned, the grind would start up all over again. Despite Salisbury and the surrounding area being the major tourist destination, attracting thousands of visitors who pass through every year, the county managed to maintain an old world, out of time feel. Eric surmised that this was due to the location and history of the area. It was a quirk on the region as opposed to any kind of design. I'm sorry, my lights, forgive me.
Do you need me to take over?
Nope, I need just a little bit brighter light.
Okay.
The county managed to maintain an old world, out of time feel. Eric surmised this was due to the location and the history of the area. It was a quirk of the region as opposed to any kind of design. He knew too well that any corporate attempt to create this type of authenticity would always fail, generating instead something feeling cheap and manufactured. There was a feeling of magic to the area as well. Anyone that has ever passed through the region couldn't deny experiencing it. Maybe it was the proximity to Stonehenge and the cultural remembrance of an ancient pagan practice folklore. No one knew for sure. It was some of that magic that Eric was looking for now. Linda, his wife, had her birthday coming up. And I'm sorry, my printer was running a little bit low on ink right there. I can't read that line. You want
Okay, coming up. Birthday coming up. She was a potterer who had a small boutique store where she sold her wares and other trinkets. Eric still found himself amazed at how, even after 10 years of marriage, they still managed to balance and center each other. Considering their completely different backgrounds and vocations, this union should not have worked, but it did. It was at these times that Eric liked to try and put some thought into a unique gift for her. This time, however, would prove to be a mistake. The bell sang as he opened the door of the antique store and entered. Eric paused briefly to look up at the device before fully stepping into the premises. The mechanism itself was straightforward. It was the bell that caught his attention. By the looks of things, it was made of solid brass. He could have sworn that he felt the weight of the bell as he passed under the door. Intricate symbols were embossed on the outside and inside of the bell. Eric could make out the shapes of runes scattered in a seemingly random pattern over the surface. He couldn't even begin to guess what these meant. They looked good and felt right somehow. Eric shrugged and continued to walk into the store. Ah, I see the Klaka has caught your eye. The voice came from an elderly gentleman standing behind the shop's counter. While not an overly tall man, he stood straight and projected an air of authority and command. His white, wispy hair spoke of a lifetime of adventure and discovery, at least something more than simply succumbing to the aging process. He wore a crimson waistcoat over a neatly pressed black shirt. It was striking, but not overly theatrical. He looked around his surroundings with something akin to a general surveying his troops as opposed to a simple proprietor checking on his wares. Eric found himself suitably impressed by the gentleman and walked over to chat with him.
All right, I got it.
Okay, I was trying to scroll up, sorry.
Yes, it seems a little on the extravagant side for a doorbell, Eric said. The shopkeeper seemed amused by his response. Indeed, it would be if it were just there to alert me to visitors, he said. A cloaca, this one was made to ward off evil. The ringing cleanses the air when you enter. The intention is to remove all ill will and feeling from our visitors, allowing you to have a moment of peace while you peruse our items. In this madcap world, don't we all need a moment of peace? Eric was in complete agreement with the sentiment. One of the reasons that he visited these places, apart from picking up something for Linda, was to have a moment of solace. He appreciated the gesture, even though the cynical side of him saw it as part of the sales pitch. It is indeed, Eric answered. It's a nice touch and quite memorable. I don't think that I've visited here before. This isn't normally my stop on the way to the house. I'm glad that I discovered you. The shopkeeper smiled back. You are more than welcome. We're a little bit out of the way, off the beaten path. I prefer it this way, especially as I advance in years. Dealing with the hordes of people can be a little taxing. Eric nodded. Oh, I agree. That's why I buy most of what I need online. Large stores can be a little chaotic. Not my cup of tea at all. The shopkeeper smiled again in agreement. Well, seeing that I have a few moments of your precious time, how can I be of service? Eric explained the reason for the visit. He talked about Linda and the fact that her birthday was coming up the next couple of weeks. He described a couple of the items he had picked up in the previous years and her reaction to them. The shopkeeper nodded and smiled as he described each one of them. Eric had a strange feeling that something else was going on as he talked to this gentleman. He had never gone into such detail before when inquiring about potential gift for Linda. Somehow, though, this manner of parley, it's getting late.
Yep. Okay, let me got it. Somehow, though, this manner of parlance seemed to be
Thank you.
expected, as if it was necessary to be able to proceed. When he had finished his recounting, the shopkeeper nodded in understanding, as if something had passed between them. Yes, I can see that this is a special woman in your life. I may just have what you are looking for. For a man advancing in years, the shopkeeper seemed quite spry as he moved from behind the counter, leading Eric to a glass cabinet at the back corner of the store. His voice carried the hint of gleefulness as he began to talk about the items. You will see here various pieces of jewelry that has come into my possession over the years, not your average antiques that have been picked up at a car boot sales or auctions. No, each piece has a story attached to it. Sadly, not all of the tales are happy ones. For example, this necklace. He unlocked the cabinet with a small key that he kept on a chain attached to his waistcoat. Let's see, he mused. I think this might just be the piece for your good lady. He lifted out a small box displaying a silver necklace and pendant. Interspersed along the links of the chain were small diamonds with slightly larger versions of the stone adorning the pendant itself. Eric was impressed. Just as he picked up the piece to have a closer look, a glint of something caught his eye. Glancing across towards the cabinet, he saw a brooch sitting towards the back of the display cabinet, now revealed when the shopkeeper removed the necklace he was holding. It had bronze golden texture to it and was studded with what looked like miniature pearls. At the center was a round onyx stone setting off a contrast against the rest of the piece. Eric found himself intrigued. "What's that?" he asked. The shopkeeper looked to the spot where Eric had indicated before, frowning slightly. "Oh, that? It's a simple locket. To be honest with you, for the price, I wouldn't deem it as anything of great value. I purchased it from friends of the family who had to sell it under less than pleasant circumstances. I'd meant to keep it myself, but some things compelled me to place it on display. Now the piece you are holding." Eric didn't hear the rest of what was said. He had his eye on the locket now. There was something alluring about it. Maybe it was the simplicity of the design. He knew that Linda wasn't fussed on what she called flashy jewelry, which the piece he held bordered on being. He guessed it wouldn't hurt to compare the pieces. "I'll just have a quick look, if you don't mind," he said. Before he knew it, Eric was in his car driving home. The last 20 minutes of his life seemed to have gone by in a blurry fog. He was aware that words were exchanged between himself and the proprietor of the store. He knew that he was reluctant to sell, and the price was well above what he would usually pay for a piece like this. The locket didn't even have a chain, and yet he knew that he had to have it. After some back and forth, he bought the locket and a small chain that seemed to match its aesthetic. He would source a decent presentation box when he got back home. There was still a bit of time before Linda's birthday. Traffic was reasonable on the M4, and Eric made good time, making it back just before the sun started to descend. Linda was home, having finished up for the day. A casserole and bottle of their favorite red was on the table. "Thanks, honey. You didn't have to wait for me. You know, these dopey meetings eat the day away. How's you?" Linda was an attractive, slim-built woman in her late 30s. Her shoulder-length blonde hair seemed to always sit perfectly on her square shoulders. She had a litheness about and a toned arms gained from working with her hands every day. She wasn't one for wearing a lot of makeup or wearing flamboyant clothing, a look a lot of her artist friends seemed to embrace. Eric smiled when he thought of how gaudy they looked compared to his wife's simple elegance. Even without trying, she always had a certain style about her. Some people just have it, Eric thought. Okay, can you read from there for a minute?
Yep.
Okay.
The evening went quietly and comfortably as usual. Was the case when Eric got back. They exchanged quips about their working days while settling in for a spot of television before bed. Eric had slipped the brooch and necklace into his sock drawer. He wasn't sure that Linda knew where he stashed her presents, much like he wasn't aware of the bottom right hand corner of her wardrobe would hold certain gifts throughout the year. Both respected each other's privacy and forewent the temptation to peek. It was part of the marriage ritual, after all, one which had held them in good sway throughout the years together, which is why Eric found himself more shocked than annoyed when he found his wife holding the brooch in their bedroom a few days later. "I'm sorry, honey, I couldn't resist peeking," she said. Although he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was, Eric could see that there was a change in demeanor with his wife. She had an almost hungry look in her eyes as she traced her finger over the surface of the locket. It was as if her fingers were testing the indents made by the embedded stones. At least she likes it, Eric thought. Well, honey, it looks like the jig is up. I suppose I don't need this anymore." He produced a simple yet elegant jewelry box from inside his pocket of his jacket. Linda smiled at him. "Oh, my dear, I'm feeling a little embarrassed now. I don't know what came over me. I know you put a lot of effort into finding interesting things for me. I've spoiled things now." Her face dropped, and Eric couldn't help himself but put his arms around her. No matter the circumstances, the last thing he wanted was to see Linda upset. Don't worry, at least you saved me from having to wrap it up. You know I'm useless at that. I suppose now that you have it, you might want to put these inside the locket. He produced two passport sized photographs. I managed to get these printed at the chemist. They have a photo lab and were able to reduce these to make it easier to cut into the shape to fit inside. I was planning to get this all done over the weekend. Linda smiled as she looked at the prints. That's the time we went to
Malaga,
Malaga. Wow,
I think.
this light sucks.
Yeah.
Good choice. Let's get them placed. They went down to the kitchen to make use of the table. Eric, grabbing a pair of scissors from the drawer, the catch on the side of the locket took a little bit of work, but eventually they pried it open. Inside were two black and white photos of a man and a woman. The period dress hinted at something from the 19th century. That's funny, Linda said. He looks a bit like you. The resemblance was uncanny, Eric thought. Life certainly was full of strange coincidences. They carefully pried out the photos and looked them over. On the back of the man was the initial J, on the lady was the initial E. Eric perked up. Jonathan and Edna. I remember the proprietor mentioning their names when showing the item to me. He said something about them having a tragic backstory, hence he was reluctant to sell. Well, here's to a happier future with this little thing, eh? Eric quipped. What will we do with these? Linda asked, pointing at the two old photos. It seems a waste to just throw them away. They're a piece of history. Eric nodded. I could I could post them back to the antique store. The owner seemed to have a connection to the family. He could pass them back or keep them himself. I'm sure that he would appreciate the gesture. Linda gave her husband a peck on the cheek before saying, That's a good idea. I'm sure he will appreciate the gesture.
Okay. All right. Life went on as usual over the next few weeks. Linda celebrated her birthday with Eric and some of their close friends and family. Work for them both fell into the usual rhythm and things seemed to be going well. That was until the nightmares began. Eric and Linda weren't huge drinkers, a few glasses of wine at the weekend, and they were happy. They had followed pretty much the same routine on that Saturday evening before heading to bed. To drink enough to cause blackouts or hallucinations was not even remotely in their wheelhouse. Eric couldn't remember what roused him, whether it was a cold rush of air or a sudden noise. The last thing he expected was to see an apparition looming over Linda's side of the bed. At first, he didn't know what to make of it. Thinking maybe it was a trick of light and shadows, he squinted over at the supposed looming shape. Tired curiosity quickly turned to shock as he made out the shape of a woman in a black dress leaning over his wife. Eric quickly sat up, trying to register what he was looking at. What? Was all he was able to blurt out before the shape disappeared. His movements and muttering stirred his wife. Are you okay, love? Linda asked. Yeah, honey. I think my imagination is just playing with me. I got randomly startled is all. Eric tried to chase the incident from his mind as he carried on with his working life. One thing that he couldn't ignore was Linda's behavior. As the days went on, she became more distant. It was as if something was on her mind or occupying her attention. He would come home to find her sitting at the kitchen table, staring off into space. Maybe she has an important piece of work that's been commissioned, he thought. He tried asking her a few times, but was only given the frustrating answer of, It's all fine, honey. Hoping that she would come around or tell him what was happening, he decided not to push the issue. It was during his tea break at work when Patricia, one of their close friends and a colleague of Linda's, called him. Sorry to bother you, Eric. I'm just checking in on Linda. She hasn't been at the studio for the last couple of days. She didn't mention being sick. I hope everything's okay. Eric was a little taken aback. She seemed fine this morning, although I did leave early. Maybe she picked up something and didn't want to bother me. I'll check in on her. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate you checking up on her. You've always been a great friend. Hanging up the phone, Eric realized that he had to get to the bottom of this. It was easy enough to book the day off. He wasn't usually absent. Tim, his supervisor, was understanding when Eric told him that Linda had suddenly taken ill and he had to bring her home. Taking a few moments to tidy up his workload, he then jumped in the car and headed home. Linda was once again sitting at the kitchen table. Instead of staring off into space this time, she was holding onto her locket, caressing it with her index finger. The look on her face was of intense concentration, and she never even registered Eric's arrival or attempts to talk to her. Honey, what's wrong? Everyone's worried about you. Patricia called. She says you haven't been to work. What's going on? I know something is up. This has been going on for a while now. The words came tumbling out of Eric's mouth as if their release was letting out the pent-up frustrations of the previous month and a half. He couldn't understand if everything He couldn't understand it. Everything had been fine. They never had any issues like this until after her birthday. The sound of the penny dropping almost sent a clanging in his head. No, that's crazy. Yet there she was, staring at and caressing the locket as if it was Tolkien's fabled Ring of Power. He looked at Linda's eyes now. They were just staring, but glazed over. Strangely enough, they looked as if a white milky film had started to form over them. Not being a massive horror movie fan, he had seen enough trailers pop up to recognize how they depicted people who were possessed. Linda, can you set that thing down for a moment, please? We need to talk. As he spoke to his wife, Eric gently clasped his hand around the locket. Whack! A force like nothing he had ever encountered before sent him barreling back. He landed with a thump on the kitchen floor, with the wind being knocked out of him. Even while in shock after what had happened, Eric could still appreciate the unnatural speed with which his wife jumped from the chair to land on top of him. You aren't going to leave me again, Jonathan. If I can't have you, then no one can. The words that came out of Linda's mouth weren't hers. Despite the terror, Eric knew this instinctively. This wasn't even the sound of a woman shouting. No, this was an echo from somewhere else. In that moment, Eric felt the call of the afterlife, hell, or quite simply death. That voice was not human, and it came from a place not meant for mortals. His bladder gave out, and Eric felt the warmth spread through his trousers. He was no hero, but neither was he a timid man. What shook him now went deep into his very being. He could almost taste the rage and hatred. What was this? What pure evil felt like? Okay, can
He
you?
managed to shake out his reverie just as Linda's hand started to clasp around his throat. Her fingers felt like ice as Eric felt them press in and start to cut off her air supply. Not like this, he thought. Linda was a kind-hearted person. There was no way on earth that she was capable of this. His mind was racing, going over the recent events, looking for clues to what caused the breakdown. Her birthday, the locket. She called me Jonathan. Wait, what was this woman's name? The one in the other picture? Don't black out now. Think, think. Edna, he managed to croak out, his voice raspy and carried the desperation of a man facing his demise. Air rushed into his lungs as he felt the pressure released on his windpipe. A strange expression appeared on his wife's face. It wasn't love or affection. It was almost that of a predator showing curiosity at his prey, like a cat playing with a mouse that it had just caught. Jonathan, you've come back to me, the disembodied voice queried. Eric's fist lashed out before he even knew what he was doing. Despite being in the odd tussle during his school days, he'd never actually been in a proper fight before. The speed and ferocity that he threw the punch shocked him almost as much as it did the Linda Edna hybrid in front of him. Her eyes momentarily showed confusion before they closed, and she slumped to the floor. Adrenaline was coursing through Eric's veins now. He was almost at the point of hyperventilation as he scrambled out from under Linda's unconscious body. She wasn't a heavy woman, but her dead weight right now felt like it was crushing him. Was this something strange and supernatural as well? Eric couldn't believe how calmly and rationally he was accepting the fact of a ghost was possessing his body or how openly he felt right now about the spirit realm in general. Maybe it was Linda's Wicca friends that would that he would at special events when he helped at their store, or their friendship circle at large. They'd gently prodded him into a realm of belief. Maybe it was a disembodied demonic voice that had just reached into his soul while his wife casually tried to kill him that convinced him. He knew that he couldn't waste any time. His wife may never forgive him when she came to, and this could be the end of their marriage. But Eric would rather endure that than letting her get taken over by this thing that is meant to do her harm. He quickly lifted her up and carried her into the living room, placing her gently on the sofa. Her grip on the locket had loosened, so he had the opportunity to snatch it from her hand. Strangely, he felt a pull as if something was holding it to her palm. Linda's consciousness must be giving this thing strength, he thought. Grabbing his car keys and jacket, he knew what he had to do. "What the hell did you sell me?" Eric shouted into the speakerphone as he hurled down the motorway. He had to be careful, no matter how desperate he was not to exceed the speed limit. The last thing he needed to happen right now was to be pulled over. "Sir, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about," the voice on the antique store proprietor squeaked from the other end. "You know fine well, this isn't a time for playing games. My wife's life is in danger. The locket you didn't want to sell me? I didn't listen. I'm sorry. You must tell me. Please, how do I fix this? I'm heading to you now. I have it with me." The line went silent for a moment. Eric had to wipe the tears from his eyes that had begun to pour out. He realized that this man was his only hope, and if he cut him off now and left the shop, he would have nothing. The sense of dread was starting to overwhelm him. "She wasn't a kind person." The shopkeeper gave a sigh of resignation as he prepared to divulge the details. "Edna was a second cousin, as far as I remember. The details of the murder were held back from the tabloids at the time, thanks to her title and family connections. Instead of causing a fuss, the Ladbroke family were paid off, and Edna quietly admitted to an asylum to live out her days. It was said at the tribunal that she broke down and lost her mind. When the family visited her home, they found strange writings on black magic and witchcraft. The last thing they wanted was a scandal if any of this got out, so they kept it quiet. It was that bad enough the rumors and gossip that went around the local village about the Black Witch in the castle. The Levin name had to be protected.
You want me to go from there?
Yeah, go ahead and take it.
I don't care about any of that. Eric was surprised at how sympathetic he sounded. Maybe his skills as a salesman were kicking in. Subconsciously, he realized that this was a pitch that he had to close. Linda's life and maybe even her soul depended on it. I just want to help my wife. Linda is in danger. I can't describe what I saw. You wouldn't believe me in a million years. I just know that if I don't fix this now, she's gone forever. Please tell me what to do." The shopkeeper sighed again. Eric would later muse that maybe he should conduct more of his telesales calls while on the brink of madness whilst hurtling down the M4 at 70 miles per hour. His figures would be off the chart. "Do you have the locket with you?" he asked. "Yes," Eric replied. "I took it off Linda after I had to knock her out cold." Sorry, I tried not to laugh at that. Sorry, that was good. She tried to kill me. Eric could almost sense the shopkeeper nodding at the other end of the line. "If she's unconscious, then there may be some time. Don't bring the locket here. You need to give it back to its owner. Here are the details." Eric plotted the location of the cemetery into his sat-nav. After a quick stop at B&Q to pick up a sledgehammer, he arrived at the crypt a few hours after closing. The questioning look of the cashier when he purchased the tool reminded him that he had soiled himself earlier. He wondered if at this stage he looked like somebody demented, or had he just passed enough for an average person for her not to have called security. Maybe she just didn't care and didn't feel like she was paid enough to deal with the drama. In any case, he'd managed to hear and was more than ready to end this madness. The marble cover of the crypt niche finally cracked and fell to the floor in heavy pieces. The coffin lodged inside looked well preserved. Eric briefly mused that the stone structure helped to preserve everything and stay the rot. He steeled himself and wrenched the coffin free from its holding place. The wood splintered and broke as it crashed onto the floor. Eric unceremoniously kicked at the lid, knocking it off. He almost gagged at the sight of the body. Apart from the odd family funeral, corpses weren't something that Eric came across on a regular basis, especially not in this state of decay. Once he got over the shock of the sunken leathery skin and the gaping mouth, he could quite easily make out the form of Dame Edna Levin. The remaining shredded pieces of black cloth instantly brought the image of woman from the locket's original picture to mind. Eric wondered for a second what could have led this woman down the path that she ended up traveling, and if at the time she thought that it was worth it. He bent down to place the locket around her neck. Eric was knocked backwards by the scream that rang around the chamber. The sound didn't appear to originate from a particular source, but rather materialized instantly in the crypt. It was closely followed by a foul breeze reeking of death and decay. "No, Jonathan, you are mine. We are meant for each other. We will be together always." The image of the demonic entity appeared to be sitting up in the coffin. Eric recoiled in fear. He didn't know if he would have the strength to fight her this time. Luck and the element had been on his side in the kitchen. Here was her domain and her body. He would need to act fast, or else he and Linda would be doomed. He thought of Linda, and the rest was easy. "You want your precious Jonathan? Here, take him back, you bitch." Eric slammed the locket into the entity's chest. The spirit of the late dame screamed again, which devolved into a demonic howl. The crypt was filled with a cacophony of sound, the air filled with the sound of pain, agony, and rage. Then everything exploded. Eric's last conscious thought was of flying marble, bone, and skin. He sensed more than felt the large piece of rubble striking him on the head. He sensed more than felt the large piece of rubble striking him on the head and knocking him to the floor. As he felt himself beginning to black out, he thought that as long as Linda was safe, this wasn't the worst way to go. Jail didn't turn out to be as bad as he had thought. The doctors hadn't thought him to be far gone enough to be committed, but had recommended that he be in a secure unit with access to regular psychiatric evaluations. It seemed that having the reputation of a crazed man who single-handedly tore up an aristocratic family's crypt with nothing but a sledgehammer meant that the other inmates tended to give him a wide berth. He could have faced up to 10 years, but his good character references, lack of criminal history, and the Levin estate asking for leniency meant that he was only sentenced for a year, out in 6 months, providing good behavior and a satisfactory psychiatric evaluation. He quickly settled into a routine and decided to turn his experience into a novella. He had never tried to be a writer before, so now seemed to be a good time. Can you get it from there?
Yep.
Okay.
The silence from Linda bothered him, even though she never testified against him for the punch or went against what was generally said for his character references. She was conspicuously absent during the court proceedings. She didn't visit or write, nor did she send him anything in the way of comfort packages. The complete disengagement hurt Eric more than he could describe. Did she not remember the events leading up to that day? Had the spirit of Dame Levin warped her sense of reality so that he had a completely different recollection of events? He really wanted to know, or if nothing else, hear from her to know that she was okay. There weren't any papers served for divorce or protection orders issued, so he still felt hope that things were salvageable. Maybe the shame of having her husband plastered over the newspaper as a deranged desiccator of graves was a bit much, and she needed time to get over it. Some of her artist friends wouldn't miss the opportunity to twist the knife a little over that to grab a rung above her in the social circles. He knew that much. It was with surprise that, with only a month left to serve, Eric was called to the visitor's room. As he was let in, he was greeted by the sight of his wife. She almost looked businesslike in her knee length skirt, heels, and pink blouse. Gone was the homespun, artistic girl that he'd fallen in love with and married. He sat down across the table from her, desperately wanting to reach out and hug her, to tell her that things were all right now. She looked at him for a moment before speaking. I'm sorry that I haven't been in touch. It was all a bit much, you know. Eric nodded. I understand, honey. I don't blame you. Tell me, what do you remember? Linda blushed slightly as she began to recall. Only bits and pieces, really. It was like a horrible nightmare. That's what took me the longest to deal with, really. I had to give up the studio. Afterwards, I completely lost touch for pottery. I was breaking more than I was able to create, and not to any decent standard. I sold my half to Patricia and went to work for an advertising agency. It's not horrible, and the days go in quickly. Eric couldn't believe what he was hearing. Linda was an artist. It was in her blood. The last thing he could ever picture her doing was slaving away in the same type of corporate hellhole that he was accustomed to. He didn't even want to return to that life when he got out. Starting his writing journey, he had unlocked something in him and he wanted very much to continue exploring that when he returned to society. What happens now? He asked, almost fearing to hear the answer. I guess we start again, Linda answered. Eric's heart leapt for a moment at the prospect of rebuilding the home life they had again. Linda continued. The Levin family felt bad about things for some reason. They acted very oddly about the whole affair. They sent us a bit of money to start up again, so I guess that will make things easier while you get back on your feet again. Eric couldn't help but smile as the buzzer to signal the end of visitation sounded. Eric stayed in his seat as he'd been instructed to by the guards while Linda stood up. When she leaned over to kiss him, a locket slipped out from the top button of her blouse. The stone adorned piece of jewelry hung in the air on its chain like a specter coming back to haunt them. Linda smiled. Don't worry, Jonathan. We'll be together soon.
The end. Wow, that was really
The
good.
end. Colin, thank you very much. That is incredible.
Yeah, that was a
And
fantastic story.
if you're ever in the market, you now know two good guys that will do the audio for you.
Yep, the reading. Well,
Oh dear God, is that your dog?
what?
Is your dog right there?
Yeah.
Oh, it just scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, she snuck back up while you were reading. Did you pee a little?
I might have. I might have. I have another ghost story. There's a ghost right there by Mike.
Yeah, boo. And did you see her bandana? Do you see what's on it?
Oh, that is awesome.
They're little aliens.
That is a perfect bandana.
Yeah.
So, Mike, we have done 2 hours and 10 minutes on this.
Yeah,
It's been a fun night, man.
it really has. I needed this today. I really did.
I did too.
This week has been hard, so yeah. Thank you again. This was a good episode. It was
Yeah.
it was fun to do something different, to just sit and
It was.
tell
was.
stories. It was parts of it though were a little like, what do I say? Because I keep looking over at the right hand side, and I'm like, come on, somebody say something. And then
Yeah, I kept looking for the chats as well.
yeah,
So it's kind of hard not having the guys there to
yeah,
egg us on.
yeah. I had to have that filler in there, but
Yep.
this is
But
our longest episode.
yeah, that chat will be back next week.
Yep.
But until then, I hope you guys all have a happy Halloween, a safe Halloween.
Yep. Watch out for razor blades and candy bars.
Razor blades and candy bars. I like that.
Yep.
That and, marijuana laced brownies.
Well, I mean, if you find those, just send them to not me, somebody else. But yeah.
I'll sacrifice myself. So,
All right. I have to
PO Box 123. I can't use any other PO box because it's already taken.
Yep. That it is. Well,
So I say we call it a night, and we will see you, Mike, live in a week and 1 day from now.
all right. Sounds good, brother.
You guys all have a great Halloween.
Happy
Mike,
Halloween.
as always. I love you, brother.
Love you too, buddy.
We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good.